President Biden and President Putin each delivered speeches on the upcoming anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine war. Another train has derailed, and Pete Buttigieg hasn't even visited the first train wreck. Europeans are starting to become more vocal and agitated about the possibility that President Biden ordered the sabotage of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. They say it costs thousands of good jobs and hurt Europeans, American partners. He closed a pipeline here at home that also costs thousands of jobs. So I guess to us, it's just same old, but Europe says we're not having it. Thank you so much for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps me out as a small news station right here on YouTube. Also, don't miss out on the interview I did earlier today with Judge Andrew Napolitano. We discuss overcoming corruption within the government. He talks about Joe Biden and his friendship from the past and how Biden is different now. It's a very good interview, and I'll make sure to leave it at the end of this video. Former President Donald Trump has continued his attack on Fox News after they covered an event that DeSantis hosted instead of his event. Trump claimed the network is Republican in name only and stated it's so interesting to watch Fox News cover the small, unenthusiastic 139 person crowd in Staten Island for DeSantis, but stay far away as possible from coverage of the thousands of people, many unable to get in at the Club 47 event in West Palm Beach, Florida. Now today, President Joe Biden is in Poland to commemorate the one-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine. He gave a speech declaring that democracy will win and took a jab at Vladimir Putin while doing so. He stated, President Putin's craven lust for land and power will fail, and the Ukrainian people's love for their country will prevail. Democracy of the world will stand guard of our freedoms today, tomorrow, and forever. That's what's at stake here, freedom. After this speech, Vladimir Putin of Russia declared he and Russia will no longer abide by the nuclear weapons treaty signed between the two countries. He also told his partners in India and also in China to ramp up their nuclear weapon production. The Biden administration has responded to Russia's decision to suspend participation in a nuclear arms treaty with America. Putin claimed the decision was made because the war in Ukraine has been hijacked by the West in an attempt to weaken his country. Secretary of State Antony Blinken called the decision deeply unfortunate and irresponsible and stated, we'll be watching carefully to see what Russia actually does. We'll make sure that in any event we are postured appropriately for the security of our own country and that of our allies. Biden himself responded by claiming the United States is going to announce more sanctions this week together with partners. He went on and claimed, we will hold those accountable for those responsible for this war and will seek justice for the war crimes and crimes against humanity continuing to be committed by the Russians. CNN host Don Lemon has been corrected by the president of the CNN network after he made comments about the Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley's age. It started when Haley expressed that she believed presidential candidates over the age of 75 should have their mental acuity examined. In response, Don Lemon attempted to defend Biden and stated that Haley is no longer in her prime, either because she is over the age of 50. Lemon has now agreed to undergo formal training as he agreed the comments he made were offensive. Trump butted into the feud by stating anybody running for president of the United States should agree to take a full and complete mental competency test simultaneously or before with the announcement that he or she is running. Don Lemon offended tens of millions of women over the age of 50 by saying they were out of their prime and basically useless. I like how he thought Biden, man, 80, good. Nikki Haley, woman, 50, bad. I mean, this is like caveman thinking. Of course, women over the age of 50 have tremendous value for society, for their families, for their workplace, and for our country. The stock market struggled today with the major indexes dropping between 1.5% to 2.5% as Wall Street worries about a recession. Gold was down, as was Bitcoin, but silver was slightly up. It's been interesting to watch silver outperform gold over the last 4 months because that doesn't typically happen. Okay, now the mayor of East Palestine, Ohio, is furious that President Biden visited Ukraine before visiting the explosive train wreck that happened thanks to the government in Ohio. After a train carrying toxic chemicals derailed and was then exploded by our own government, it sent a plume of toxic gas into the air, and now there's just poison everywhere, and they're sending in massive cleanup crews. The train group is going to be responsible for cleaning this up. But the mayor said Biden choosing to support another country over his own American citizens is the biggest slap in the face. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Biden's transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, has responded to criticism he received from the incident. He stated, "I am planning to go, and our folks were on the ground from the first hour. Critics argue that it's much too late to show up now as the damage has already been done." But I'm curious to know, how do you feel about the situation? Is this too little too late? All right, now speaking of trains, another train in Nebraska derailed earlier today. 31 train cars were basically booted from the track and collided. It's a big, giant mess. Now, Pete Buttigieg has another problem on his hands as transportation secretary. The train derailed earlier today, and it was mostly carrying coal. This is the fourth rail derailment in less than a month. Now, this after months and months of strikes, threats to walk off the job, and President Biden giving rail workers a 25% raise. Hopefully, Pete Buttigieg can figure out what's going on so that this doesn't continue to happen, because this messes up lives. Messes up an entire city, and something needs to be done about it. All right, now the United States might be willing to overlook President Biden most likely using the CIA to blow up the gas infrastructure for our NATO partners, Germany. But many European government leaders are now starting to openly vocalize their anger and their worry that the United States did an environmental attack and a terrorist attack on a major piece of German infrastructure. Even though it's Vladimir Putin and Russia's pipeline, it ultimately feeds into NATO nation Germany. So let me just roll the tape.
Since September, the lack of interest in finding answers to who was behind the Nord Stream gas explosion has been frankly astounding. This was an act of sabotage, an act of unrivalled vandalism, economically and environmentally, and not a word, no discussion, no questions. Then along comes Seymour Hersh, the world's most acclaimed, distinguished living investigative journalist. He produces a detailed claim that the United States executed this explosion with the help of Norway. Planned months before the invasion, a Norwegian Navy P-8 surveillance plane dropped a sonar buoy on the 26th of September, which triggered explosions planted by US Navy Panama City divers 3 months earlier under a NATO exercise, and still nothing. I don't know what happened, but I want to know. This is a man who doesn't make claims lightly, a man with contacts, and I find it frankly jaw-dropping that the EU is not asking questions as to who is responsible for sabotaging the livelihoods of our citizens. I am ashamed to be a European.
Now, I believe the day will come when we will see a full investigation, not from the United States, because we don't really do investigations on corruption anymore, but it will come from Europe and the European nation, and they will say, why did Norway and the United States collude against Germany right before winter? And why did they lie about it? Why is there so much deception around it? All right, now, hey, remember those 3 UFOs that the White House ordered the U.S. military to shoot down? Well, nothing has been recovered. Shocking, right? And after stirring up fear that we were being attacked by a foreign nation or possibly off-world aliens, the United States and Canada have jointly announced that they're calling off the search party. They're not even going to look for parts anymore. Now, what do you think really happened? Did they find the parts and they're like, oh crap, we shot down a Mylar balloon or a weather balloon or a science instrument and they've got egg all over their face? Or do they really not know what they are? Or is it some kind of piece of UFO technology or military equipment that they just don't want to be forthcoming about? Let me know your thoughts down below. My guess is they either didn't find it or they found it and they're embarrassed, and so they're saying, just tell the public we didn't find anything. All right, now that's my news for the day. Before you go, I want to remind you that you are amazing. Make sure to check out this super important video and get subscribed to the channel. There's a lot of places to get your news, so I appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you on the next video.